to théâtre every night. Like I said before, I loved the Enchantress, though we'd spent so long together that I'd grown inured to her glamour. Even the Mona Lisa begins to look a bit plain Jane and no-nonsense when you pass her every day. Yet I understood the longing the Enchantress inspired in all who laid eyes upon her. I sympathized with the hearts she broke in each city we swept through. The Enchantress was a force of nature, and most were simply caught in her wake, trying to not drown. As the audience members who'd climbed on stage returned to their seats, I nodded to the stagehands that we were ready to begin. The Enchantress, still bowed backward, lifted her right leg, followed by her left arm. She was taller than most realized, with long limbs that she moved so gracefully that they didn't seem to bend at the joints so much as curve. Sometimes she seemed more ballerina than magician. Their collective breaths held, the audience watched the Enchantress balance impossibly on one leg and one arm upside down, holding the pose with a preternatural ease. When the Enchantress was certain she had their full and unwavering attention, she raised her left leg. Only her right palm remained in contact with the stage. The rest of her body defied Newton's laws, hanging suspended like an inverted hook. It should not have been possible. It frustrated the senses. And yet the audience couldn't deny what they saw with their own eyes. The Enchantress knew exactly how long to let the anticipation build. She possessed a natural gift for prolonging the audience's ecstasy and anxiety as they waited, gripping each other's hands tightly in the dark for what came next. She guided them to the edge of their seats, forcing them to balance over the chasm, and then, with no warning, the Enchantress rose into the air as if drawn upward by a line attached to her torso. Audience members gasped. One frightened person bit off a scream. The Enchantress floated nearly 2 yards off the stage. Her pale hair drifted around her head like seaweed, and her arms and legs moved languidly, as if the space around her had been transmuted into water. The Enchantress was beautiful and dreadful and tragic. Her body told the story of the mermaid with the broken heart who could breathe underwater and yet had still drowned. She drifted over the stage, allowing all to watch and to grieve for her lost soul. "Thief! She is a thief!" A man's nasal voice sliced through the thalassic silence. And what he actually said was, "Voleuse! C'est une voleuse!" But it'll save some time if I translate his words directly to English. "What the devil is going on?" Lucia D'Alessi appeared beside me. She was my age, small, with a stormy complexion and a perpetual scowl. Like me, she was an orphan who had been taken in by the Enchantress. We could never pass for actual siblings. I was as pale as an egg, while she had the darker skin of her native Italy, and neither of us looked enough like Evangeline to convince anyone we were her biological children. Still, I loved her like a friend, and hated her in the way only siblings could. Feelings that I assumed were mutual. I peeked around the curtain, searching for the source of the interruption. Most of the audience was still watching the Enchantress, who had given no sign that she'd noticed anything was amiss, but a few had turned to the man at the rear of the theater. "She is a thief and a saboteur!" "Chabrol," I said, and swore under my breath. Lucia gripped the silver end of her cane. "How many times did I say we should leave Paris before incorporating Chabrol's illusion into the act?" "Many times." Henri Chabrol was a talented magician with absolutely no flair for the dramatic. His greatest trick was how quickly he could put his audience to sleep. His second greatest was an illusion unimaginatively called La Femme Flottante, during which Chabrol's young assistant lay on a table, floated up, remained suspended in the air for a count of 10, and then drifted back down. I had seen Chabrol perform it a dozen times, and it had rarely elicited more than tepid applause from the audience. Henri Chabrol had designed an illusion that had never been seen before.